brain, realistically, is one of the biggest organs and muscles that you carry around in your body. And it's one of the most undertrained and underdeveloped, asset that you have.
Here we go. We are live with another episode of the Constant Sports Podcast. Today we're doing a real deep dive into leaders, kind of how they build themselves before they build businesses, build themselves, and really kind of what Bill's creating is building people and not just businesses themselves. And so, thanks for joining the show today, Bill.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me, and I look forward to a great conversation.
No doubt, no. One of the kind of the main topics and sectors we're going to focus on today is kind of success and how everyone wants success. They want better business, they want better health, better performance, better leadership, all that good stuff. But the real question is, and Bill is going to help us answer today, is who do I need to become first before you build any of these things. And so kind of to kick things off, we'll give Bill kind of an introduction here. U.S. Navy chief, serial entrepreneur, author, sports leader, founder. Anything I'm missing there, Bill?
Husband, father, right?
There we go.
The two most important things, because without either one of those, I would not become
That's
any of
right.
the others, right?
That's right.
So yeah, just a little introduction into my background, and I again appreciate you having me on the show and an opportunity to be able to share a little bit with your audience. But my journey started, a long, long time ago, and grew up in the 90s and lost my father at a very young age. Was a normal kid at that point, two parents who couldn't really get along, and like most people brought all their problems into my life, right? So started a little bit of disadvantage. When you talk about leadership, I had very poor examples of leaders as a child. Father was a bad alcoholic, mother worked real hard, but always struggled with mental illness and couldn't really keep it together all the time. So my father committed suicide at 13 years old, and that kind of struck me 4 days before Christmas, right? Really, really hard and affected a big part of my life. At 16 years old, I left high school because there was no money coming in, and mom, again, was doing her best working as a single mother, but, there just really wasn't a lot of resources there. So I floated around as a 16 to 19-year-old kid, kind of just working three or four jobs, partying a little bit, being a knucklehead a whole lot, and just not really having life figured out. And then you had mentioned being a Navy chief. I was fortunate enough in December of 1999, right before the start of the new century, to run across a Navy recruiter that gave me the, hey buddy, why don't you come over here and change your life? And change your life I did, right? I mean, I could tell you a million stories about the Navy, but I joined the Navy at 20 years old as a high school dropout who was doing good things. I wasn't hurting nobody. I wasn't getting in trouble. I wasn't bothering anybody, but I was just in that rut. I was working in two restaurants, at a Ruby Tuesdays and a Checkers, and not that there's anything wrong with that, but I wanted more for my personal life. I wanted to be able to do more. Kind of had a calling in the back of my brain to do more. So at 19, I joined the Navy, and I was in the Navy for almost 16 years, where I did very well. I got promoted 5 times in my first 5 years in the Navy, and found myself as a young sailor, but in senior leadership. We're talking about leadership. This is really where I had the opportunity to learn what leadership was, taking care of other people. I took care of my mom, I took care of my siblings, but this was the first time really taking care of people outside of my family, right? So I did that for 16 years. I went back to school. I got a bachelor's degree in child psychology from Liberty University. I got a master's degree in youth policy development from Eastern Kentucky, writing programs for kids. Out of my 16 years, I spent 10 of those years as a Navy recruiter, where I started to learn how to work with kids in high schools. The Navy found out I could talk, so they exploited that and sent me out to recruiting. And I spent 10 or 11 years doing that. And yeah, then I got out and became a school teacher for 4 years. And this is where I found out in civilian world that, I really just wanted to work for myself. Being a teacher was great, working with kids was great, but I wanted to find something working with kids where I could for lack of a better term, write my name on the front of the check, not the back of the check, and really
Yeah.
be able to build some life independence and use the skills that I had. So started doing softball back in 2010 with my 10-year-old daughter, which led to me running 20 travel ball teams and an organization, which led to me becoming the Florida PGF state director and now building and running Florida PGF, Premier Girls Fast Pitch, which is the biggest, most competitive girls fast pitch softball organization in the Southeast United States. We run 30 to 35 high level tournaments every year, impacting tens of thousands of female athletes through the game of softball. That spawned Lead Your Journey, which is my mindset, performance, and recruiting company, using my formal education plus my 20 years of working with kids. And I built an online education company where I teach kids about mindset, performance, sports, academics, athletics, life, relationships. I work with dads and parents on the sporting and building good relationships. And I work primarily with female athletes, dads and daughters. I coached forever. I coached travel softball. That's how I got into it. I'm a
Yeah.
2019 3A state champion at the high school level, and I've got probably 500 girls I've helped play and get to the next level through college scholarships and couple national championships at the softball level. So yeah, that's the 5 minute version that I could last, probably talk to your audience for 10 hours about, but that's kind of the short version of my professional career.
I love it. A lot of golden nuggets in there that we're gonna pick apart here as we go throughout today's talk and whatnot. But one of the things I want to touch on was, I've read some of your work and some of the things online and things, and you often say that leadership is not a title; it's a daily decision. So what do you mean by that, and how can we implement that?
Sure. I mean, you can get hired as a leader, but that doesn't mean that you're effective, right? Anybody can have a title. You can be the CEO, the COO, the leadership guy, the overall training. You can be whatever you want to put on there, but leadership is really understanding that it is a daily decision. It's intentional effort, right? That's my leadership kind of pillar, if you will. We wake up every single day and we have a choice, right? As a man, as a husband, as a father, as a coach, as a leader, you have a choice. I'm going to do the right thing and have good integrity and take care of people and put people first, or I'm not. And I'm going to play in that gray area or just that dark area where I'm doing things deliberately wrong. But leadership is a choice every single day. It takes humility. It takes sacrifice. It takes, you've seen the memes, right? A leader is pulling the whole crowd, or, a boss is pulling the whole crowd. A leader is,
Yeah.
showing everybody the way. So, I'm a firm believer, and my time in the Navy taught me that leadership is understanding your people, whether you're a coach and it's understanding your player, whether you're a business owner and it's understanding, the people that are working for you, your clients, all of these different little branches of the tree. You as the leader, the person that is saying, I'm building this, or I'm in charge of this, or I'm guiding this, you have to have knowledge, understanding, humility of your people, of your processes, of where you're going, right? I know, Connor, you've heard the term "fake it till you make it," right?
Yeah,
That is not leadership. That is kicking the curb down the street and hoping no one finds out that you're not doing the right thing, right? And leadership can happen at any point. You don't have to be 10 years into a career in order to be a leader. You can be a leader from day one. Navy boot camp teaches you that somebody's got to lead that march left, right, left from the day you get there. That guy doesn't have 6 weeks to learn like everybody else and figure it out. Somebody steps up and somebody leads, right? And that's what happens in business and life and sports and entrepreneurship. Somebody has to lead, and you have to do that with intentional effort, making a decision every day to execute positivity, understanding your people, and taking care of the mission ahead of you.
right. Well, and kind of leading into the next part here, as you mentioned, kind of have that, being intentional each day. You kind of wake up and kind of get things rolling. Now, there's certain, I guess, for lack of a better term, like operating systems or checklists might be a bad word, or things that, small and simple steps that people can, kind of implement to first start out.
Sure. I mean, look, I wrote a whole program and a whole profile about it called 60 for me, right? It's 60 minutes a day in order for you to be able to focus on being the very best version of yourself, right? So the 60 for me program has evolved over the last 6 years. It started by chance. I told you I got out of the Navy in 2016. When I got out of the Navy, I went through a deep kind of silent depression, what I call moving positive in the wrong direction. Meaning, I was doing good things. I was an okay husband. I was an okay father. I was working my businesses, coaching 15 teams, helping build an organization. But internally, I was broke. I had lost my team. I didn't know what was going on. I was teaching in a school. I was never supposed to be a school teacher, but that's what God had at his heart for me in that season of my life. So, I had to do it. Well, 2020, I get into a head on car wreck. I'm coming home from a softball game, driving. Some guy makes an illegal turn and he just pulls out in front of me. I hit the guy head on going 45 miles an hour. Got knocked out, was out for 5 minutes. I don't know, long enough for EMS to show up before I woke up on the scene. Wasn't really hurt, kind of got a concussion, got a little cut on my leg. But I had this awakening that, man, like, look at everything you're doing. And if you wouldn't have walked away from this wreck, what would your life have been left with? I would have died an average guy at 225 pounds with high blood pressure and a decent guy who everybody would have forgot about the next day. Right. And so I was looking at my life over that time, and then COVID shut us down. Right. So I just started looking at myself, and literally, man, again, I got out of the Navy at 170 pounds. By February 2020, I was 225 pounds. That's great if you're 6'4", but I'm 5'6", with Reebok pumps on. You know what I'm saying? So when you're that height at that weight and your body's just not used to it, like, it changes you. So here's COVID. I'm running tournaments. My business is shut down. School shut down. I just got in this car wreck. Man, I'm miserable. I'm absolutely miserable, right? So I just decided, I looked at my wife and I said, you know what, honey? Forrest Gump. I'm just going to start running. And I did. I ran a mile and a half that day, but it took me 23 minutes. I was so just overweight and out of shape and just not in the right spot. And then the next day, 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 right? So we're talking about small little steps, right? These were the small little things that I did every single day. I decided I'm going to show up. This mile, it's going to suck, but I'm going to show up and I'm going to do it. And then in July, so we're July 2020, I just started taking videos of me working out. Hey guys, I got my hour today. Hey guys, I got my hour today. Hey, I'm working out. Hey, what are you doing? Hey grandma, I got my hour. I mean, I'm literally making videos on Facebook for my grandma in New Jersey, right? And this guy comes up to me at one of my tournaments and he says, hey Bill, I've been watching you for the last 6 months over COVID and watching your journey, and everything that you've posted has inspired me so much. I've lost 50 pounds. And I'm like, what? Like, I'm making these videos for my grandma. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah, yeah.
but lo and behold, like I do with everything, I started leaning into that and I started researching that and working on that. And over the last 5.5 years, we've actually built a company, we've built a program, we've built a methodology, and that's the 60 for me program, right? So 60 minutes a day for you to focus on being your very best self. So you say, Coach Bill, how do I take these small steps in order to make sure I'm getting better? Right. Well, there's 5 things that we as business owners, men, women, human beings in general, I've narrowed down that we work on. We work on our mind, right? How do I think? How do I feel? We work on our body. How do I look? Can I move? How's my health? How's all that? Work on our relationships. How am I as a father? How am I as a husband? How am I as a leader? What are my coworkers like, right? Work about our finances. Am I broke? Am I having investments? Am I working on retirement? And then we work on faith. Whatever your faith is, whether you're a believer in this, that, or the other, you work on your faith, right? Everybody, in my opinion, works on those 5 things. So, great, Bill. How do I work on those 5 things? Well, you're intentional about it. You lead yourself before you lead anybody else, right? You stay up an hour later to get the work done. You wake up an hour earlier to get the work in. And it's not just about working out. right? Maybe you don't understand this project. Now I got to read for an hour a day. I got to focus in on that. Maybe you do need to lose some weight. I'm working out for an hour a day, right? Maybe I'm building something towards my investments. Now I got to study what finances and sit down. So every category we're working on as we're building, right? The second part of that, another step do I take? Be the example, right? Don't tell your kids, be quiet, sit still, be nice, be patient, right? Go work hard, go live your dreams. And then you stop at Starbucks, eat a cheeseburger, and sit there. And then when they get in the car, tell them that they didn't work hard enough, right? Be the example that you want the world to see. Whether it's the example God was for the world, whether it's the example you are for your kids, whatever your thing is, show up to be the example in that. Don't be faking it till you make it. Do it on purpose and be the example. And then the third pillar to that, what step can I take? And this is the one where people miss the most. Give yourself grace and consistency over time. We are human. We're going to fail. Even when you wake up and say, today I'm going to do this. People in general do it for a day, 2 days, 5 days, 7 days. Then the dog got sick, the kid needs this, something happened and it broke my schedule, and I get off track. And then, well, it's over. There's nothing I can do about it. Give yourself grace and know that every single day I have to show up. You didn't get out of shape in one day. You didn't get broke in one day. Hopefully you didn't. You didn't lose your relationship in one day. You're not going to get all these things back in one day. It takes consistency over time. So if I'm an average person that wants to get started, what do? Get started. Take the walk, take the run, take the class, watch the YouTube page, write your goals down on paper and work on them intentionally by being the example and consistency over time.
Love it, love it. I'm ready to run through a brick wall over here on my end, but just with that intentional effort, being the example,
Yeah.
consistency over time, and it's the baby steps is really what it comes down to. With really in any aspect of life, kind of in my opinion, just doing the small, simple things. Never miss 2 days. I feel like I heard someone say that, and I've been using that a
Yeah.
lot recently.
I mean, look, I agree. Never miss 2 days in a row. But again, a lot of people get it confused that it's just for the workout, right? Never miss 2 days in a
Yeah,
row investing in yourself in some way, right? We can get better. I can build bigger muscles, but that means nothing if I don't know how to eat properly, have nutrition properly, and do things. I can create an LLC in a business, but that means nothing if I don't know how to get customers and market and know how to have good customer service and follow up and follow through and to do the job that I'm saying. I could lead athletes on a field, but that means nothing if I don't teach them how to be consistent, how to help them get recruited, how to help them with their grades and the whole total package. So, I can do a lot of things, but do I do them intentionally? Do I do them to be the example? And do I, know that it's going to take time for sure? So, yeah, but athletes, I love it. I work with them every day. What you got?
here we go. Being in sports, working in sports, obviously with yourself, coaching and working around thousands of athletes and families. I feel like we're seeing a lot of, I don't know, maybe not bad parenting, but kind of where do parents get it wrong as far as developing athletes, coaching from the stands, that whole aspect.
Yeah, and to say parents get it wrong, right? I mean, that's always sketchy, but parents
Yeah,
at times, myself included, right? This is where I've learned over the years and why I started my Lead Your Journey program is there's a gap of information between I watch my daughter all week long bust her butt, cry in her room, get the blisters, get all of this stuff. So parents see the investment in the child that the rest of us don't see on game day. We just see the result. Did she hit the ball? Did she make the shot? Did she kick the goal? Right? And if she didn't and she failed, well, then she must not. But parents get all worked up because they see their kids all week long. And then on the weekend, they want them to do so good. And if they do great, we're going to cheer them. And if they don't, well, now, so I think parents just not understanding the long game, right? It's a long game. I've put it into, there's kind of three phases for a sporting kid and sports family. There's that 12 and under phase from 0 to 12 years old. From 0 to 12 years old, I call that the do what you're told phase. I'm going to play this sport, wear this uniform. I'm going to play this position. I'm on this team. They have very little control about what's going to happen to them. They just know that my parents put me in softball and this is what I do every day, or put me in soccer, or put me in this. This is what I do every day, and I play with these kids and I wear this uniform. They have no opinion. They kind of just go. Now, there's exceptions. You have your really mature 11 and 12-year-old that know how to advocate for themselves and speak. But for the most part, 12 and under, they're kind of dormant. Right at 12, 13 years old, depending upon upbringing, nature versus nurture, your home life and all that, DNA, you start to mature. You start to awaken, right? I don't like playing first base. I want to play third. I don't like pitching. I want to be a catcher. I don't like this coach. I want to be on that, right? And so that 13 to 16-year-old phase, this is where you see kids start to pull away. This is where they quit the sport. This is where they start doing other things. This is where the parent relationship with the child starts to get really tight and tense because the kids are now aware. Hey, I now know I struck out. And because I struck out, the game is over. And because the game is over, we didn't win. And they don't realize that there was 2 hours worth of game before that, and that strikeout didn't lose the game. But then if parents come in and go, I can't believe you didn't hit that ball. You had a great opportunity. You let everybody. Now this is where we start to call, if you say, where do parents go wrong? That's it. Right? Instead of going, I watched you work and play all week long. I love the work and the effort that you put in. I love your attitude throughout the week. Yeah, maybe you didn't get this one, but I love to watch you play. Now the kid goes, I can make a mistake and my parents still love me. Right? And on the other end, when we get into the car and we give them the what to do and we tell them what they did wrong and how they could have been better. And, we say, if this is how you're going to perform, I'm not doing this no more and I'm not spending this. Okay. Well, now you've created the reason a kid quit. Now you create the reason that a kid doesn't play. Now you create the reason the kid is tight and tense whenever it's her time to perform. So I think just having, that's a long answer to where do parents, I always like to say, where do parents need support? Not necessarily that they get it
There you
wrong,
go.
but where do parents need support? Parents need support understanding the process, understanding that, the same 12-year-old that you expect to hit every ball, don't forget she can't clean her room properly. Right? She can't put the dishes away properly. Right? She doesn't mow the grass properly. She misses a whole section when they're 12, they're 13, they're 14. We have advanced cognitive abilities, so we forget that this little human who talks sassy, who does her thing, who goes here, who goes there, who shows that she's mature, really at the end of the day is 13, and
Yep.
so parents just understanding the maturity level, understanding the process, and being able to just sit back and relax. And then if you don't know, well, 704-807-5663, that's what we're here to help with and teach you, kind of that whole process. So, parent issues and players and understanding the process and developing all that, that was the birth of Lead Your Journey. And, if you really don't understand how to support your kid, you can buy the book, Leading Her Game. So that's a book I wrote specifically for parents of high level, high functioning female athletes. You can find it on Amazon. You can go to leadyourjourney.com/author and book, and you can get a copy of this book, and it will give you 5 chapters of methodologies and ideas on how to relate to your child. But the 5 methods and 5 methodologies does not fix your child. It fixes you. And it's about how you feel, and it's about how you act, and it's about how I'll just touch on chapter 1, right? Chapter 1 points out the 3R method that I want to recognize, regulate, and reinforce, right? Recognize as a parent, am I getting more excited over her missing a bunt than she is? Am I getting more tweaked up about her pop fly that she dropped than she is? And if so, then I have to regulate my emotions, because you ever see a parent put their head on the womb and listen to their baby's heartbeat and they're like, oh, what a connection, right? Well, that connection doesn't just stop when the baby's born. When they're inside the fence playing the game and you're excited and tense and anxious, they can still feel that. There's still that pressure, you know? So we teach them to recognize as a parent what's happening in this moment. Regulate. Don't be the thermometer. The thermometer just tells you how hot it is. The thermostat tells you Oh, it's set at 71. Well, it's 95 degrees in here. Let's go ahead and bring this thing down. It's set at 71. You ain't talked to her in 3 days. It's 25 degrees, Celsius in here. Let's bring this thing up, right? So it allows you to regulate what's happening as the adult. And then the third part is recognize that you are in control, recognize her attitude and her effort. If we could get more parents to focus on a child's attitude and effort throughout the week and holding an accountability process Monday to Friday, because on the weekends they typically play, a lot of this stuff would get alleviated. But we just
Yeah.
do it by the cuff. There's no real planning, right? I tell my clients on Sunday, sit down with your weekly planner and plan. Monday, we have lessons. Tuesday, we've got practice. Wednesday, you have a pitching lesson and you're going to hit 4 buckets. Friday, you're going to hit 4 buckets and go do a speed and agility workout. Now, if you get to the end of the week and she didn't do any of that, now you have something to hold her accountable to, right? If she did it, now you have something to hold her accountable to. So our attitude and our effort, if we would just plan and build with our children instead of just you do this, you do that, we would have a much better relationship with them, especially through communication.
Well said. Yeah, and we'll link all the the book and all your work and stuff here in the description too. So we'll get that rolling for the listeners and viewers who are listening. It's in there, so we'll get that going. But then I
No
did want to
worries.
get your thoughts and opinion as kind of a expert in the space as far as youth sports, where you see the youth sports sector going, good, bad, the ugly. We've seen a lot of money being poured into youth sports and whatnot. So just curious your take on the sports industry right now.
Yeah, I mean, look, youth sports, right? Like, you hear people every August and December, you see, Grumpy Bob going online and complaining that there's too many youth sports teams and that any dad who has a problem can go and just make a team, right? And there's
Yeah.
just too many teams and too many things going on. If there's enough kids to fill the team, then there's not too many teams. That's just how I feel about it, right? I mean,
Yeah.
we're getting to a space now where with social media, with worldwide growth, with all of this stuff, and now what happens is more people have played sports in the 90s and 2000s and the 2010s. Now they've introduced their kids to it and their kids to it, right? So, why such a sports explosion? Well, it depends on what era you're coming from. If you're listening to a guy from the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, yeah, there's a sports explosion. If you listen to a guy from 2010, like, yeah, it's still growing, but it's been there, right? So it really just depends on where you're getting your information from. But look, I was a dad who started a team. Like that's how all this started. Like I went into little league and we played little league and then we went to travel ball. We were on a travel ball team for a season, 2 seasons, and then I went and started my own team which turned into everything that I just told you. So, you know,
Yeah.
my personal thing is, look, I run a sports league. I could sit here right now and go, well, sports are right just where they need to be, and we don't need any more growth. That protects me. I don't have to worry about any more tournament directors and anybody else coming into my. But that's just not real life. People are always trying to grow and make things better and do things. That's why, in this business, you have to provide a good product, do a good thing, have good personal relationships, do what you say, show up and be accountable to running your business for your customer, which is the sports parent and the player. So my opinion is sports need to continue to grow, right? And we need to continue to develop every single kid that has an opportunity, right? I was raised by a single mother. I didn't play sports past 11 years old, and what I could make the team for in middle school, right? Outside of that, my mother worked too many hours, and this was the 90s, so I didn't really have a ton of travel sports then anyway that I knew about. But look, I would say don't single sport your kid, right? You want your kid to try multiple things. Getting institutionalized at 9, 10, 11 years old and never allowing your softball kid to play soccer or to play flag football or to play lacrosse or to play basketball or swimming or track or, because she's going to be an elite softball player at 10, I think that's ridiculous, right? I mean, let your kids try multiple sports. Let them pick the one that they like the most. You might see less kids exiting sports at 13, 14, 15 years old if they have a little bit more choice in what they want. My daughter played softball the whole time. We tried gymnastics. She played volleyball. She played basketball. She did several other sports, and decided that softball was her thing, the one that she loved the most. So that's where we focused. My son didn't really do anything. We tried him in several sports. He's like, I don't like any of this stuff. I'd rather go build robots and computers. Right. And then he
Yeah.
ended up joining the high school wrestling team for 3.5 years, but that's all he ever, played. So, um, I think just listen to your kids, right? Don't force your kids to do stuff. The good is parents are spending time with their kids out on the field, building relationships and memories for a lifetime. You're keeping your kids out of the streets. You're keeping your kids out of these bad situations that you don't really have any. I mean, bad things are going to happen either way, but you're giving your kid an opportunity, right? The bad. Sometimes the way that we treat those opportunities and relationships cause bigger problems. Know your kid's level. If you complain all the time because your kid's not getting opportunity, take your kid to a place where they can get opportunity. And that may be at a lower level. Your kid might not be getting opportunity because you think they're a D1 prospect and they're not. And that's okay too. Right. I think sports are like anything, right? If I have 100 teams, 30 of them are going to love it, 30 of them are going to hate it, and the 40 in the middle are going to keep it going. You know what I'm saying? Like that's just with anything. If I walk into a room, 30 people are going to love me and say, that guy's amazing. I don't have to do nothing. 30 people aren't going to like the way I wear my hat or my scratchy voice. And they're like, that guy's trash. Right. And then it's the 40 people in the middle that I'm talking to that will determine whether I'm successful or not. Right. I mean, that's just
Yep.
psychology. So
Yep. That's just the way it goes. Yeah, no, for sure. And I had some rapid fire questions here before we
do
end
it.
here, and so kind of revolving around kind of what we've been talking obviously about. So one of the first ones is, what's the most underrated habit you see as far as personal development and things of that nature?
Most underrated habit? I would say the most underdeveloped habit is mindset and performance training. Anytime we have a kid or a parent who has a problem, their first reaction is send him to a batting coach, send him to a fielding coach, send him to a pitching coach, send him to these specialty things, fix their hand, fix their feet, fix their hips, fix all of these things. And we don't pay attention to their mind, how they think, how they feel, their relationship with their parents. Who are they trying to impress? What are they trying to do? What thoughts do they have going through their brain? The brain, realistically, is one of the biggest organs and muscles that you carry around in your body. And it's one of the most undertrained and underdeveloped, asset that you have. So that would be my answer is that we don't focus on how we think, feel, and react enough. We only focus on skill development.
Well said. Well said. And for the entrepreneurs and business owners and whatnot listening, what's some of the early biggest mistakes entrepreneurs and founders can make when they start their entrepreneur journey?
Trying to do everything yourself, right? Trying to do everything yourself, right? And as a leader and as an entrepreneur, this is your money or an investor's money, so you want to make sure that it's done right and you get it right. But eventually, you will wear yourself into the ground. You have to learn how to trust those around you in order to be able to complete the mission with you, right? You're never going to get everything done in a day. Prioritize. Take risks. Don't be afraid to do what I call jumping in the pool, right, Connor? What happens is, you're around a pool in the month of April, right? Depending upon where you live, that pool is still a little chilly, right? And people walk up and they dip their toe in there and are like, oh, I'm not going to go in there. Right. And what happens is one guy just decides to jump and is like, this is no big deal. And then five more people follow. Right. So the instant shock of, oh my God, what did I do? And then everything relaxes and you figure it out. Right. So don't be afraid to take risks. Some of the biggest risks I ever took came with the biggest rewards. Dropping out of high school led to joining the Navy, right? Ending my first relationship, came to be 23 years now married. Walking away from the Navy at 15 and a half years, 4.5 years away from a retirement, led to now being a serial entrepreneur, owning multiple businesses and not really, having to worry. I still worry, but worrying about what I lost. I don't ever worry about what I lose. As an entrepreneur, you have to be smart. But a lot of times being safe will get you hurt more than just jumping in the pool.
Yeah, just jump right in. I love it. I love it. And then what about what does winning actually mean? I'm sure it differs for everyone, but to you, kind of what does that mean as you continue to build and grow yourself?
Sure. So winning means getting to watch your granddaughters play. Right? Winning means you're getting to watch your granddaughters play because your kids bring them back to the game. Because if you treat your daughters and you treat your players wrong in the game, they'll never introduce their kids to it because they had a miserable time. Right? So winning is getting to watch your granddaughters play. Winning is, having enough personal freedom to be able to watch your family grow up, but also the people that are working for you that allow you that personal freedom, making sure they have it too, right? Taking care. That's winning, right? Winning is not getting to the top of the mountain. Winning is getting to the top of the mountain and then bringing everybody up to the top of the mountain with you, right? Because that's winning. Winning is making, the 60 for me slogan is better you, better them. It's not just about being the best. It's about being the most fit so I can make others fit. It's about being the most calm so I can make others calm. It's about being the most financially stable so I can make others financially stable. It's about understanding, God's light and God's glory and God's path so you can fish other people onto that light and that path. So winning is not being by yourself or any single award or attribute. Winning is collecting all of this experience, evidence, and information, and making sure that the world has it and you shorten other people's time to success and freedom and to their version of winning.
Yeah, like I said earlier here in the show, you got me ready to run through a brick wall here, and I'm excited to kind of learn more, see the book, and continue following along your journey. And
Yeah.
for Bill, thanks for coming on today and sharing your journey and kind of where you've been, how you've been building, these multiple businesses and being such a great coach. And like you said, obviously to a father and husband goes into that as well. And so for the listeners and viewers, you mentioned where you can find your book. Where can they find you on the socials, on the web, your book, all that good stuff?
Sure, and I'll just close with this, right? And this is for anybody. Success lies in the adjustments, right? You just named off all the things that I did that one can talk about, right? But what one doesn't talk about is for the softball business, I've had many tournaments that have failed and made people mad and upset, where I've had to learn and pivot from, right? In the Navy, I've had many things that didn't go my way, and I failed my math test to become a teacher 9 times. This is why I didn't teach math, I taught civics, but I failed it 9 times. But nobody would know that. They just know that I'm a certified teacher. I didn't make chief 6 times in a row. I got passed up 6 times in a row. But nobody would know that. All they know is that on the 7th time I made chief, I wear my anchor, and that's all that matters, right? Nobody knows what happens, right? All they know is what happened. Right? That's the difference. Nobody knows what happens. They only know what happened, right? I try to explain it to people like this, right? If you're out to sea, because I'm a Navy guy, and the waves and the storm coming, right? And you're standing at the helm, what do? If the waves are rolling, Connor, and the ship is starting to go off course and you're at the helm, what do? Grab the wheel, man. Grab the wheel. Right? You grab the wheel and you try to steady that bird. I know you're not it's okay. You grab the wheel, right? And you grab the wheel in order to try to get that boat back on course. You ever watch Gilligan's Island, right? They're grabbing the wheel, right? And they're trying to keep that boat on course. Well, what happens is people grab the wheel when things aren't going right, and they try to steady everything. And success lies in the adjustments. And then that storm rolls on and passes, and then they take their feet off the wheel, they go out on the bow, they put their feet up and they relax. Right? Well, what happens during that relaxed time is that current underneath called life, and things that happen and things that you're not planning for and things that you're not intentional about, even during the calm storm, pull you off track and you end up going aground somewhere. So you always have to keep your hands on the wheels of adjustments. When things are going great, keep adjusting. When things are going terrible, keep adjusting, right? So success lies in the adjustments. Nobody can win forever. You have to keep adjusting. Nobody should lose forever. You have to keep adjusting. And those that can adjust the best with the most amount of information to find themselves back on the path of success are the ones that typically end up getting where they want to be, right? So, yeah, success lies in the adjustments. So you can find me, social medias, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, 60 for me, 60 FORME. Just like the program says, that's my social media tag, 60 for me. You can go to leadyourjourney.com, if you want to know more about the Lead Your Journey program, mindset, performance, recruiting, information, things like that. Yeah, that's how you get a hold of me and our circle and kind of what it is we're doing. And I appreciate the time for sure.
Perfect, perfect. Yeah, we'll have everyone directed there. And thanks again, Bill, for coming on. It's been another episode of the Constant Sports Podcast, and we'll see you guys next week.